I absolutely love furniture showrooms. Honestly, I could hang out here all day. And this is an amazing showroom. This is Chaplins in Hatch End, North London. And today I'm joined by Sonja Klaus, amazing production designer, set decorator. Do you remember we met originally watching Gladiator at the Royal Albert Hall?
Oh my goodness. I remember when we sat in that box.
That's right. It was very exciting.
It was amazing being with people to see what they thought about it. Because you can imagine when you work on films and you go to the cinema and you're watching a film that you've worked on. I've spent a lot of time looking around going, do they like it?
You've worked with Ridley Scott a lot.
Yes, I have. I've done quite a few projects with him and he's been very good to me. I've done jobs with him as a set decorator. I've done jobs with him as production designer. Sure. I've done jobs with him where he's been an executive producer and I've been the production designer and he's given me the script, like for Taboo, for example, and 2 of the Dickens shows. Those are all Scott-free productions. He's always been really good to me about my career and, and I ring him whenever I get anything and I talk about it and go, what do you think? And his line is always the most important thing about working is that you need to be happy.
I have set Sonja a kind of really playful brief because I don't think people realise how much thinking goes into choosing furniture pieces to represent characters in the way that an interior designer has always got to be thinking about, the personality and the taste and the lifestyle of their client when choosing and decorating a piece. Obviously, you've got backstories to consider and why have they chosen that piece and how does it represent their taste and personality. So how do you go about choosing furniture for a main character's home?
Well, after you've read the script and you've looked at it and thought about it, seen the locations or started talking about the drawings, the designs, the shape, all of those things, seen the director's pitch deck of tone. I mean, often when you're a designer or a set decorator, you're coming on earlier than most of the other people. So you're starting at the beginning and research is terribly important. Like particularly if you're coming into a showroom like this and you're looking at all these pieces, some of these pieces are newly designed, but some of these pieces have been around for quite some time. So they have their own history, they have their own backstory, they have their own look. And it's very important that you do that research to understand, how many times has this light been used in something and what am I actually going to get from it for the character and what is it going to say? It isn't about your taste. Being a decorator or a designer, it's not about your taste at all.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes there's maybe a misconception about, I quite like this table. It's like, yeah, but would Tony Stark choose this table?
Would he?
He may not personally choose it, but he may have an assistant or someone that works for him. Tony Stark is a billionaire. He's probably going to get a designer in who's going to show him loads of designs, to have his own interior designer. So what is that interior designer how is that interior designer going to interpret what his needs are? Because at the end of the day, it's about the needs of that person. And it's the why. And also for certain characters, you've got to look back and go, so did they inherit that from their parents? Or was that something they learned from their parents? Or did they learn that because of the job they did before? Or did they have a client? Or did they have someone? Or did someone give that to them as a gift? Or are they just fascinated by the shape of that? You also have to think for filming, you have to think, yes, but does that shape work on camera? Because what works for us walking around now that we might take in our own personal living space isn't necessarily what's going to work on camera. And some things that we look at and we think are really cool, if you don't place them in the right setting, it can lose every single part of its beauty. So the why is always terribly important. Why is that there? Why is that table in that window? Why is that chair by that library? Does it need to be by that library? What am I getting out of that? Also looking at the scenes that have been written, because obviously in everyday life, we don't write scenes. We just do our life. We live our life. We don't know what we're going to say next, but with a script, we know what's going to come next. Sure. So we have all that information. So it's very important to read between those lines. What am I seeing that's in between those lines? John Berger wrote a book called Ways of Seeing. I tell everybody to read it before they come and work for me. John Berger was very much about what's between. What do I see between? What is the shape between? What is it giving me?
So what I'd love to do now is I'm going to give you 5 characters, key characters that we will all know from movies. And I'd like you to choose some pieces in the Chaplin showroom here. And there's 180 brands in here.
It's a lot.
Yeah, 25,000 square feet. I would love you to talk about what you feel would fit their homes and why. So our first character is Tony Stark from Iron Man. So let's remind ourselves, he's a billionaire, of course. He's a genius, he's a playboy, he's a philanthropist. He's sharp, he's tech-driven, and he's bold.
I've chosen this table because for me, Tony Stark is about curves, he's about metal, he's about geometric shapes, he's quite masculine. And the reason I like this table so much is because it's got a very thick top to it. It's dark, the top. And I love the undercarriage with the shape at the bottom that you can see that's like an X. That you get this kind of feeling of this metal with this wood, with glass, with chrome, and all the other things that come with it. But what I would do is, I probably wouldn't use this as a dining room table. I would use this as a desk, or this could be something that he just sits at, one singular chair. But I also like this mirror, teaming it up with this very large mirror. Love the sort of like metallic look of this surround. Reminds me of his suits, the shininess of his suits. It's bold. It's a really good color on camera. With mirrors are very difficult to use. You have to be very careful with mirrors, and you probably would have to put that on some sort of gimbal or something if it was a set build. It's all about big shapes, being bold, not being shy, and not making it look too housey. It's very important it doesn't look housey. It also has to smack of wealth. You could add a piece of smoky glass to it, so to give it a shine, because you've got a kick coming from this if you did that. Plus you've got a kick coming from this surround of this beautiful shaped mirror.
So next we're going to take a look at Miranda Priestly from The Devil Wears Prada. And you've already chosen the piece, Miranda. You knew it instantly. I love that.
I did, yes. I think for me, because Miranda has two worlds. Miranda has her world in her office, where she walks in and she treats everybody like they are stuck to the bottom of a shoe, like a piece of old chewing gum. And then she has her home life, which we know is not great either. And she has two sort of younger children. But she is very much dressed to impress. It is about impressing people. I think it's also about, because of the people she mixes with, I think she wants to be known that she might understand about art, appreciate art, that she is aware of art, because that's another layer to add for her to her personality, of her knowledge. Because she's such a narcissist, it's so important for her to be seen that she has to be on top and know about everything that every single person does. I chose this sofa in particular because Danish design, as we know, has been around for quite some time. And if you have original pieces of Danish design, they've got a massive value. If you have some original pieces. So I think that she would have pieces of furniture in her house that had that value. I also love this crisscross at the back, because it's like the crisscross of the way that she is as a person. She's very spiky. She's also quite straight, she's tight. These are tight, these strings. She reminds me of all of those things. But yet at the same time, she shows us sometimes that she has a softness. So you have this sort of hard-ridden, tight drum, like a drum on the outside. And with a drum, you expect the skin to be tight, which is obviously what she'd like, which is why she has, probably Botox every 2 minutes. But then it has the softness of this fabric. We know, because we've asked, that this sofa was actually released about a year ago, I think.
Yeah.
And there's a chair that goes with it. But I think I kind of also like that fact for her, because she would also be on top of what's new and what's coming and what's happening. Yeah. I also like the fact that it's not a regular shape.
Yeah.
Because that's her personality, is that you don't really know what's going to come out of her mouth next. And you can't prejudge her. Whereas if you have something that's very regular and straight, you know where you are with it. It's got arms, it's got a back, it's got cushions. you don't know where you are with this because it's a free flow shape, which is also what I like.
Love it. You look very at home there, Sonja.
I chose a desk for her. Because I think in her home, she brings the office, she can't help herself. So she's going to have her own office at home. And I chose this desk in particular because I really like the sort of, again, it's a bit like the sofa that we chose. It's got this sort of angle across here. It throws you slightly because you're so thinking, oh, where's the bit that's going here? But you see, that's the whole point of it. It doesn't want you to, it's, you know, the angles on it are all slightly off. And that is what's so clever about it, because every angle on it, apart from, if you look at these, this is the telephone, you know, plug in and stuff, but everything is sort of slightly off on the top. But yet you have at the side, you have these drawers, you know, this sort of secret panel here. These drawers here, she'd have, like, you know, like we know, she tries to get one of the Harry Potters that hasn't been printed yet. And I did actually quite like this chair. I like the sort of lines on this chair because I felt that the two were quite nice together. I like it. And I think, again, it's got the wood and the leather and, you know, it's solid, but yet it throws you. And I think that's all part of her not wanting you to relax in the space that she's in.
So next up, we're going to look at Selina Kyle. Catwoman. So she's very street smart, sensual, stealthy, with moral complexity.
Lighting is a big part of what you do in design. It's a massive part in design. So you want it to do lots of different things for you when you get it, because there's no point if it just does one. You know, you need to think about what it's going to give you. So I really love this glass light. I love the strapping. It's got a sort of industrial feel with it, with this strapping, with this bar that goes through. I love the shape of this dome globe, because it's almost like those Russian industrial lights that you see. You know, you could always imagine it have the sort of flat piece here and the rings around it like you get in the factories. But it's a sort of take on that. Someone's taken that and they've gone further than that. And if I was using it, I probably would buy 3 of these of this size. You know, I'd have a big metal table underneath it, you know, and she's got kind of benches, you know, with that metal table, but she's got these above in her loft apartment or wherever it is she is, with the big windows, light shining through. And
leather straps are amazing.
Leather straps are amazing. And I haven't seen that actually. Tiny bit kinky, almost a little bit bondagey, but I kind of like that edge for her, especially when you think about the suit. You know, the tight leather. There's a little bit of that aspect.
So still on Selina Kyle, we also have this table.
Okay, so I love this table for many reasons. I love the size of it. I love the metal. It's industrial. It's a statement piece. It's saying a lot. The reason I also really like it is because she is Catwoman. And my cats, I have 4 cats at home, and they'll get any excuse they can to find somewhere to go and lie down or dress themselves. And I just love the idea that someone comes and maybe she's got something on the top and they pick it up and underneath there's a cat curled up inside one of these trays that you get. Or she's put them, you know, they lie in there and they sleep in there. And I think rather than just having cat baskets or having something, it's like, think outside the box, think about something a little bit funky. I just thought that might be a little sort of like little comedy moment that you could share with everybody.
Slide out.
And I think these slide out. So you can slide the pussycat out and then slide the pussycat back in again.
Love a nice slide.
So that's why I chose this.
So next up, we're going to take a look at Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. And interestingly, there's a new version of American Psycho being made with Luca Guadagnino and Austin Butler. Playing Patrick Bateman. So with that in mind, Patrick Bateman, obsessive.
Got money. Definitely not poor.
So what would you choose for Patrick Bateman?
And he's not, you know, are we saying he's not really going to be our busy mate, is he?
No.
So I think it's important, just when you are blocking out a set, one of the important things is you need to go for the bigger pieces first, and then you talk about the detail later. That's the sort of layer that goes on after. So for him, I've picked this cabinet here. He wouldn't have that television set there. He probably would have a Picasso, or there would be some painting that he'd got that was worth millions that just was casually placed in that area there because he is that person. Also, these would be filled probably with really expensive pieces of artwork. So when I say artwork, that could mean that he has a collection of very rare First Nations pottery, you know, from the Americas, you know, and each one of those is individually placed in this unit and lit. I like the fact that it has this LED lighting above, because whatever you can put in here, you can highlight that and light that. So he wouldn't, it's not, for him, it's not about books and vases and cocktail drinks. It's about the fact that it's the rarity of it, the value of it, the sort of don't touch it, it's mine. And I wouldn't just have one of these, obviously. I'd probably do a whole wall of it. I really like this kind of bronzy color that's at the bottom. And I like that because I like the metal. I like the idea that it could be metallic, that it's hard, very masculine. But at the same time, it's going to gives me a bit of warmth in the room. And then I chose a table over here. Great, the color on the top here of this table. And I loved, again, the pattern. And underneath, it's very solid. It's weighty. I probably would use this and put an art piece on the top. So this is almost like a console table. It's not a dining table. It's not an office table. So forget that light. Probably some fabulous piece of artwork, a Henry Moore or something like that he's bought, you know, and he's plonked it right in the middle and it's lit. And it's, again, sort of presentation value to it. I also like the fact there was a tiny tinge of black here running that you could see. It was almost put a black here. And I felt that black picked up on the cabinets over there with the black in. And again, the sort of bronzy color at the bottom, you have this kind of warmer sort of bronzy pattern at the bottom of this. So I felt that the two kind of went together quite well.
Yeah, see what you did there? So next we're going to talk about Reed Richards and Sue Storm from Fantastic Four. And I thought this might be kind of fun because there's a new Fantastic Four First Steps coming out in the summer, I believe. So obviously we're talking bit of mid-century, bit of space age. Talk a little bit about Breon figure.
Loving.
So I mean, this was actually designed in 1960, early 1960s. I know,
it's amazing. For me, that's a little bit hot, that orange. So I would want to have a conversation about possibly having that another color. And I'm sure it comes in other colors.
It does.
But the shape of it is really quite funky. And I do love a bit of that 60s kind of sci-fi stuff. What we want to talk about is actually these pieces over here. So I think you all recognize the Panton chair.
Classic.
It does come in lots of other colors. Love it teamed up with this beautiful retro light and with the sort of slightly chrome. You'll notice it's an ever so slightly gray sort of tinge to the top of it. But just love how it's working with these reflections here, trying to sort of get that kind of science fiction yet mid-century vibe going with it. Unfortunately, the lamp's not switched on because we couldn't plug it in. But I just think I love that lamp. I'm like so in love with that lamp. I think it's the most beautiful thing, and that is value to me. That brings to me lots of value because I love the frosting, because the light is not just coming down, light's coming up, but it's being changed again when it comes out of here. It's going to be a sort of frosted band that you're going to see, but you'll also have the down light, so you'll get more of reflections on the table.
And it looks like a UFO.
And it looks like a spaceship. Yeah, it does.
Perfect.
Something like that look. So yeah, that's so loving those things together.
Perfect.